Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we dig up the spooky and silly of Halloween's past. For those of you that grew up in the 80s, today we are revisiting the TV specials that made your childhood Halloween unforgettable. Whether they were terrifyingly good or just plain awkward, we got them all covered. So grab some candy, we're about to get started. The number 10 spot is a classic, The Great Pumpkin Charlie Brown. It's basically the Halloween version of Charlie Brown's usual disaster routine. Linus, who's the Peanuts equivalent of a conspiracy theorist, decides that the Great Pumpkin will rise from the pumpkin patch and deliver presents. Yeah, presents, because Halloween is now a gift-giving holiday. I don't know. Linus's night ends with him getting nothing but a cold, hard dose of reality. The Great Pumpkin never shows up, and Linus's faith is crushed as much as Charlie Brown's hope for decent Halloween candy. It's a really uplifting story about belief, disappointment, and the sweet, sweet irony of Halloween. Number 9, The Worst Witch. It's like Harry Potter, but with a massive budget cut and a lot more awkwardness. Mildred Hubble, who somehow gets into a school for witches, even though she's clearly the world's worst witch. Picture someone who trips over their own feet and then accidentally sets everything on fire. That's Mildred. She's at the school with a bunch of witches who are way better at magic, and of course they all hate her because she's a walking disaster. But she's got a good heart and somehow manages to stumble through every magical mishap. The film's basically a magical train wreck that's oddly endearing, if you like your witches with a side of perpetual clumsiness. Number 8, Halloween is Grinch Night. This is Dr. Seuss's way of saying, hey, remember the grumpy green guy who hates Christmas? Well, guess what? He also hates Halloween. On this special night called Grinch Night, Whoville is locked up tighter than Fort Knox, which allows the Grinch to roam around and get into trouble. At one point, as the Grinch attempts to commit a hate crime on a Wuzzy-Woo, this kid Euchariah, he's the bravest of all the Whos in Whoville. He comes to save the day. The Grinch, tired of this Who getting into the way, he lures the little Who into his windowless white wagon. Euchariah faces a bunch of ridiculous spooky shenanigans that can only be explained as an acid trip gone wrong. In the end, Euchariah somehow manages to save the day and proves that even the most determined Grinch can be foiled by a little courage. Number 7, The Halloween That Almost Wasn't. This TV special is hard to forget. A rumor starts that Halloween is on the verge of extinction. Dracula is being blamed as the person starting that rumor. So he grabs all the big monsters like Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster. Apparently both have been too busy being a joke rather than terrifying. Turns out the witch is the real culprit. She's sick of being made fun of and is threatening to end Halloween by skipping her moon ride. Dracula tries to negotiate with her, but she's not having it. The monsters have to end up breaking into her castle for a showdown that's basically just a slapstick mess. In the end, it's a little lackluster. The witch decides to do her moon ride because 2 little kids beg her not to ruin Halloween. Oh, and it wraps with Dracula in a leisure suit, dancing with the witch, who's now a disco queen. Because why not? Number 6 is by far one of my favorites. This gem by Disney is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow from 1949. It's a cartoon about a skinny, jittery teacher named Ichabod Crane who's been trying to win over the town's richest girl, Katrina. Meanwhile, a local musclehead, Brom Bones, is also in the running. At a Halloween party, Ichabod gets spooked by the tale of the Headless Horseman, a ghost who, surprise, surprise, doesn't have a head. So Ichabod rides home, and guess who decides to crash the party? Yep, the Headless Horseman. This leads to one of the most epic chase scenes in cartoon history. Unfortunately for Ichabod, it ends with the Headless Horseman hurling his flaming jack-o'-lantern at him. Ichabod's fate? Well, he just sort of disappeared, leaving people to question, was he just spooked out of town, or was it something far more worse? Number 5, Witch's Night Out. It's a pretty simple story about a witch having a midlife crisis, because kids today don't appreciate her Halloween magic. So she decides to play a fairy godmother and grant a wish to a bunch of kids, turning them into Halloween monsters. Because, that's the best way to show them the true spirit of Halloween. Coming in at number 4, Garfield's Halloween Adventure. On Halloween, Garfield convinces his pal Odie to thinking dogs need to trick-or-treat with cats. Basically, he made him his candy mule. They start out trick-or-treating, but somehow end up on a small rowboat, which Odie just manages to make a floating disaster because moments in, he throws the oars overboard. They drift to a creepy old mansion, meet an old guy who claims he's a former pirate cabin boy, and hear his ridiculous story about pirate ghosts needing to return for their treasure at midnight. The guy ends up stealing their boat and leaving Garfield and Odie stranded in the creepy old mansion. Midnight hits and the pirates show up. Garfield and Odie end up jumping back into the river and escaping the pirates. They somehow get back to shore and their candy is still intact. Number 3, the iconic Thriller music video by Michael Jackson. This isn't exactly like the other TV specials we've been talking about, but anyone growing up in the 80s more than likely watched this video every Halloween. Jackson and his date decide to watch a cheesy horror flick at a theater. During the movie, his date freaks out and they have to leave. On their way home when they're walking, they cut through a cemetery. Because naturally, that's what you do. No surprise, zombies pop up. Jackson morphs into a werepanther and then morphs into a zombie. Him and the other zombies end up breaking into an elaborate dance routine. Because nothing says scary monster like synchronized dance moves. They chase his date into an abandoned house until she wakes up realizing that this has all been a bad dream. But wait, there's one last twist. Jackson is actually a werepanther in disguise. Number 2, Mr. Boogedy. The Davis family decides it's a great idea to move into a house with a past. And not just any past, a ghostly past. Enter Mr. Boogedy, the ghost who's basically a walking, floating prankster who just won't leave. He's like the world's most annoying house guest, constantly popping up to scare the daylights out of anyone with his over-the-top antics. The Davis family, of course, is completely unfazed by this, and they end up discovering that his ghostly mischief is tied to an ancient curse. So they embark on a thrilling quest to solve a centuries-old mystery, because, apparently, finding a way to stop a ghost from throwing a temper tantrum is just part of moving into a new house. Spoiler alert, they figure it out. Mr. Boogedy goes into sweet ghostly retirement, and the family goes on living their lives. Coming in at number 1 for a variety of reasons is Disney's Halloween Treat. It's basically Disney's way of saying, hey, remember those old cartoons you love? Let's slap together a bunch of Halloween-themed clips and call it a special. Expect a lot of nostalgic moments with just enough eerie stuff to make you feel like Halloween, but nothing that's actually going to scare you. It's a great way to relive Disney's idea of spooky without getting too worked up. There's actually a total of 3 different versions of this special. 2 of them have a different narrator. The first being the Talking Pumpkin, which is my favorite. The next version replaced the pumpkin with the magic mirror from Snow White. Later, a 3rd one came out that used cuts from both. And that's a wrap on our spooky tour through Halloween specials. Did your favorite make the list? Or did we miss a personal classic of yours? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on more nostalgic fun. Thanks for watching, and may your Halloween be full of treats and just the right amount of tricks.